Awesome. All right, so without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce myself. I am Shannon Dolan. I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, nutrition grad, winner of Best Nutritionist in Austin, Texas for 2 years in a row. Clearly, I love all things health and wellness and nutrition, and I could talk about it forever. So I'm super excited to be sharing my expertise with you all about ways to enhance your overall health and specifically how to support your heart health. So thank you all for being here. It looks like we're kind of a little all over. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? Let me see. Y'all feeling good? Put in the chat if you can hear me or give me thumbs up. Hopefully we're doing okay. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Kim. All right, awesome. So again, thank you for being here. And this talk is very fitting because not only was Valentine's Day last week, hopefully y'all had a good Valentine's Day and celebrated, but also this month just so happens to be the American Heart Month. So very fitting talk. You might be here with your own expectations or own desires to learn something specific for you and your health and your family. So again, thank you for being here. We're going to start off this talk by talking about the prevalence of things like heart disease, okay? This is a very big situation that we're in terms of chronic illness, with heart disease being one of the big ones that we see on a regular basis. That is a steady increase. So here are some stats about it. And this is kind of a little bit of a somber way to start the talk. Know that it's going to brighten up a little bit here soon. But you might be thinking to yourself, well, Shannon, I definitely am here because I have something going on within my family that I want to make sure that I'm supporting myself best. Maybe you're thinking about any risk factors that maybe you have, or maybe you're just curious, right? Maybe you are just looking to be healthier overall, you know, the new year, maybe you set some New Year's resolutions. No matter what, I think you're gonna find some good quality information within this talk, okay? So here's an idea of where we're going. I'm not a big fan of surprises, so I always like to make sure that everyone else has the information that they need of where we're going. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that chronic illness component. Why is it so important to be here to begin with? Why is it so important to start applying some of these things that you'll learn in this talk? We're going to talk about nutrition, my favorite topic of all time, how to eat for your health, prevention, utilizing fitness and stress management techniques, and then we'll talk about some long-term health and goal setting for you, okay? So we'll tie it all together in a pretty little bow, so that way you feel really empowered when you walk away from this talk. How does that sound? Are we ready? Put yes in the chat if you are ready. By the way, I love when the chat box is going, so I always appreciate that. I want to make sure that y'all are here with me, and so far it looks like this group is, so thank you. Amazing. I love this. Perfect. All right, so let's dive in. We're gonna just get through some of the heavy stuff first to understand the chronic illness component. Okay. So as you can see on that previous slide that I showed you in the beginning, and then on this one, chronic illness associated with heart disease is definitely a major issue, especially here in America, right? And it's growing at an increase, but there are some risk factors that are prevalent in heart disease, okay? So we have things like chronic stress, which we'll cover later about how to support our bodies through stress, poor nutrition, a sedentary lifestyle. Again, all of these things that we'll go through of how to enhance that in your own life, right? Maybe you're someone that already does a pretty good job at all of these things, but you're just looking for a little extra boost, or you're just starting at, zero and you're wanting to just get up one notch, okay? No matter what, you are in a good place, okay? And again, you might be thinking, well, Shannon, I have something in my genetics that I'm really concerned about. And maybe you feel a little helpless, like, oh, well, this was something that is in my family and it's just going to be the end all be all for me, right? Or something that I'm going to contract or have issues with later on, I should say. The truth is, or thankfully, in short, it's not necessarily all about genetics, right? If you have something that is in your family, like anything listed on this slide, know that there are some things that you can do. You have a little bit more of control within that driver's seat to help support your body and to ward off chronic disease, okay? So hopefully you're feeling a little bit more empowered about that, all right? And in short, chronic illnesses and diseases like the ones that I have been mentioning tend to be a result of something broken in the system. Now, before I dive into this a little bit more, know that if you are someone that is experiencing this, or someone who maybe your family member or someone that you know is experiencing this is no blame on that person, right? This is just a demonstration about there is something that is often overlooked that, you know, can kind of snowball into something bigger. And most of us just don't know what any of that stuff means. So let me take a step back and kind of explain that a little bit further. Does anyone here own a pet? And if so, what kind of pet do you own? I'm just curious here. I personally am an animal lover, and this is going to make sense in a second here. I own 2 dogs and a horse, actually. So I've seen some other dog lovers in here too. Some cats, fantastic birds. Oh, that's cool. Oh, you have a puppy, Robin. I hope it's going well. Puppies are definitely a lot of work in the beginning. Oh, you have a corgi, so cute. Okay, so the reason why, I'm sure it is interesting, yes. The reason why I bring this up is because I'm sure y'all are fantastic pet owners, right? So when your puppy or your corgi has something where, you notice something's off about them, right? Like their energy is a little bit off. Maybe they're seeming a little lethargic. They're just not themselves. That tends to put a, alert system in your mind. Ooh, I got to pay attention to this, right? You're going to be like, is it okay? Keeping a really, really good eye on this animal, right? If then, things start to progress into something else, maybe, going to the bathroom isn't like it normally is, or their appetite seems off, they're not really drinking water, chances are you're going to take it to the vet, right? And you're going to say, hey, what's up with my animal? Can you please help me out here, right? And the vet might say, well, maybe it needs better food, or maybe it needs to be walked a little bit more, or whatever it is that they say, right? And if you're anything like me as a pet owner, I'm like, okay, I'm on it, right? Like I'm going to the pet store and I'm going to grab the food that they recommend. I'm going to do the things that they recommend because I just really care about my animal's health, right? So the thing is often when little red flags or little things pop up within ourselves, we tend to ignore it. Human beings are fascinating in that we tend to ignore these things that are going on with ourselves, right? Little bit of low energy. We're just, it's fine. I'll just, have an extra cup of coffee. No big deal. Regular disrupted sleep. Oh, it's fine, right? Like constantly are pushing things off. If you're anything like me and my clients, they tend to push things off, right? So it's important to bring this awareness to your body and just have this connection and this curiosity with yourself of, ooh, I wonder why that's coming up, and maybe I should look for help and support with this if it's something that continues. So if there's anything that you get from this talk today, I hope it's just that you have a little bit more curiosity about some symptoms that do pop up with your body, and that you feel empowered to go ask for help about them, okay? So again, thankfully you are here, all right? And I know that sometimes talking about the prevalence of these chronic illnesses and heart disease and stuff like that can sometimes bring up a bit in people. So we'll just kind of take a deep cleansing breath together. Deep inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And again, you're going to walk away with a lot of great tips that we're going to dive into right now about how to best support your body. Okay. And I love that y'all are such animal lovers. That's been fantastic. So great. What a fun group. Okay, so the first piece we're going to dive into is nutrition. Again, I could talk about nutrition all day. I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible for y'all and give you the biggest bangs for your buck in terms of things to pay attention to. Okay. Now, I love this quote because it does really demonstrate the power of nutrition, saying that the food that you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. Now, that last part is a little intense, but I do love the picture that it's painting, right? Of giving that awareness of, ooh, the food that you eat does matter and it does impact how you're going to feel. And to kind of demonstrate this, how many of you all have had the experience where you have something like a high sugary meal, right? Maybe it was like French toast and donuts or something like that, right? You had a high sugary meal, and then maybe you felt like that sugar high for about an hour or two right after. But then after that, you were just, crashed on the couch, brain fog, low energy. How many of you have experienced that? Put yes in the chat if you have. A high sugary meal that just made you feel a little ugh afterwards. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. And I saw happens to my husband pretty regularly. Yeah. My husband has a major sweet tooth as well. So that in and of itself demonstrates how food can impact us, right? How these foods that are up here in this one corner of the slide are going to be very different in terms of how it reacts in your body compared to the bottom meal, right? That's going to just sit differently within your body, and it's going to provide different energy, okay? And I'm not here to tell you, you can never, ever have a donut, or you can never have these cookies or any of these candies that are, pictured on this slide. Because the moment that I tell you, and this is a great tip to go into any new diet or way of eating, the moment I tell you you can't have something, we all have this inner rebellious teenager that says, oh, you said I can't? Okay, watch out, because that's exactly what I'm going to go do in a couple of weeks, okay? So instead of focusing on, I can't do this, I can't do that, you're going to focus on adding in some nutrients, right? Instead of that scarcity, we want to focus on the abundance. So how do we do that? Well, these are just some general good guidelines to practice, okay? Here are some of the basics that I love to give to all of my clients. The biggest one is making sure that we're adding in more natural and real whole foods. The standard American diet today is loaded with a lot of highly processed foods that are created in a lab with a lot of added sugar. It's estimated that about each Americans every day consume about 77 grams of added sugar, again, per day. And just for a reference, the upper limit, the maximum, and even I think this is a little high, is 25 grams, okay? 77 grams compared to 25 grams. That's going to impact your health, all right? So again, we want to just focus on adding in the nutrient density. So going into that produce section, adding in some of those natural, real whole foods that are from the earth, that your body recognizes and knows how to digest, okay? So shopping seasonally is a great idea. And just going in and trying to get your grocery bags filled with a lot of different colorful foods, okay? When you get these foods, you have all of this beautiful produce, you have these like good quality meats, all of this good stuff. We then want to focus on balancing those meals, right? Making sure that we're supporting our blood sugar. Because like we talked about just a bit ago, when we have those big high sugary meals, the reason why we're crashing later on is because we're in this roller coaster for our blood sugar. And if we can instead just balance our food in a way to kind of even out that blood sugar a little bit, we're going to have more sustainable energy. It's going to feel way better in our bodies. So what balance looks like is making sure you have that protein, you have those healthy fats, and you have those natural nutrient dense carbohydrates, right? So, like brown rice, your potatoes, stuff like that, like sweet potatoes. That is going to create this balance. Notice how I said all of the different macronutrients in there. I know that this time of year with, again, New Year's resolutions were not that long ago. It can be a little confusing. There's a lot of people saying no to this macronutrient, no to that macronutrient, but they all have a role in the body. And everyone is going to be a little bit different in terms of what their needs are. But just for a general rule of thumb, incorporating a little bit of all of them is a good idea. Okay. And again, to kind of dive a little bit deeper in that supporting of your blood sugar. So this is just one helpful tip for you. If, let's say, you have your breakfast, it's a solid, balanced breakfast, great solid balanced lunch, but you still get a little hungry around like 3 p.m. in between that lunch and dinner time. Typically, people tend to have a longer stretch of time between the two. And you want to reach for a snack, right? Think of that snack as still having some protein, some healthy fats, and those natural carbohydrates, right? It's just like a little mini meal. So you can certainly go for something like a banana or an apple or something like that. But to help just add a little bit nutrient density into it, you can add something like almond butter in order to help stabilize that blood sugar a little bit more. Okay? Do we have any questions on this so far? Feeling good? And if, by the way, any questions do pop up as I'm talking, feel free to just put them in the chat and I'll just try to get to them as soon as possible, or if not, at the very end, okay? All right, so next up, some other basics. Now, before your eyes go super, super wide and you see that I have a picture of salt on here and we're talking about heart health and oh my gosh, isn't that conflicting? Hold on a second, let me get to it. Okay, this is really all about minerals, providing your body with some minerals. Again, we're looking into nutrient density and giving our body the things that it needs. Minerals are one of them. So there's going to be a big difference between high sodium foods, like processed foods that have a lot of sodium in them, and things like table salt that maybe are just more sodium chloride, compared to something like a sea salt, right? Where you're adding in all of that nutrient dense food that we talked about here, and maybe you just sprinkle a little bit of sea salt or use a little bit of like a mineral drops or electrolyte tablets in your water, right? That's going to be different in your body. And the minerals are so important because it helps your body with thousands of metabolic processes within the body, and then also helps it with hydration. Now, of course, if you are someone that is going through some sort of heart complication or disease, definitely consult with your doctor about the addition of any of the sea salt. But just know that we want to make sure that we're, again, crowding out more of that processed high sodium food, like we talked about in the first slide, before adding in anything addition. Okay. Hydration. How many of you feel like you're good on hydration? But I'm good in hydration if you are. Or maybe if you want to be honest, put in the chat, I could probably do a little bit better if you're maybe not so great with the hydration. Okay, I'm seeing some good ones. Awesome. Well, either way, hydration is definitely something that across the board, Americans are chronically dehydrated. This is a big, big problem because, having enough hydration is just so important for your overall energy. And even just a 2% dip in your hydration status can lead to cognitive issues, can lead to, just issues all around, right? And then a 10% decrease, that's where we're really looking into, you're probably going to have to go to the hospital at some point because you're going to be acting all out of it and people are going to be really concerned. Okay. So we want to make sure to boost that hydration. First thing in the morning, make sure you're drinking some water, okay? That water is just gonna help with getting all of the systems going, basically, including that circulatory system, okay? And like I said, the minerals, having adequate minerals can be supportive for your hydration status, okay? So you can have something like a noon hydration tablet, NUUN, that provides you some electrolytes, provides you some minerals. You can put some Himalayan sea salt with some lemon in your water too. Again, just adding that little boost. So that way you're not drinking a lot of water and then having to run to the bathroom constantly. It helps your body actually use that water a little bit better. And that doesn't mean water retention, but it just means adequately hydrating you. What else can you do to hydrate you besides water? I love herbal teas. Of course, making sure that caffeine component isn't, you want it to be more herbal without the caffeine to best hydrate you. So there's plenty of different teas out there that you can try. And I like to make like a big batch of my own herbal concoction of teas. And then I put it in a big jug and just put it in the refrigerator. So that way I can just kind of sip on it throughout the day if I'm not in the mood for a hot beverage. Love it. I love that, Craig. Fantastic. That's great. Amazing. Yeah, I love the sea salt in the water for boosting that hydration. If you have an issue with the fact that it will taste like salt water, adding in that lemon can be helpful with there. Coffee. So with coffee, we want to make sure to keep in mind that when we're having caffeine, we're decreasing our hydration, right? So with every cup of coffee, you want to make sure that you're still getting like a nice big cup of water in addition to that. And we want to just overall minimize our caffeine consumption as well, because that can put a lot of strain in the system in terms of, you know, increasing stress hormone in the body. We don't want that when it comes to our heart health, okay? And just touching on this very briefly, knowing that I could go into a whole talk about this, but I'm not going to in terms of time, gut health. Supporting your gut is so important. I know that it's kind of become a little trendy, but it is super important. The science about it is fascinating. Over about 90% of diseases can be traced back to poor gut health. So really important to just support your gut as best as possible. All of the things, thankfully, that I've gone over as far as the nutrition component can help with that. Is a great starting point for that. Okay, awesome. All right, so that covers the nutrition piece. Next, I want to talk about exercise. So I'm curious in the chat, so far y'all are animal lovers and you're staying pretty hydrated, which is great. So now I'm curious, what are your favorite ways to move your body? What are your favorite exercise modalities? If we're a, active bunch here, let's see. Yeah, put it in the chat. Walking, running, awesome. Walking, elliptical, daily bike rides, fantastic. Yay. Not good with exercise. Well, I'm going to share some tips with you to help you out. Pickleball has become so popular. I love it. Okay, so here's the thing. Aside from, helping people in corporate wellness and helping people with nutrition, I also have about a decade of experience as a personal trainer. And one thing I can say is people tend to mess this component up a little bit, okay? When it comes to fitness, they get really wrapped up in the I should do this, and that, right? Especially when it comes to the New Year's resolutions or just wanting to be healthier. But if you are having trouble with having that consistency in your exercise program, let's start with the things that you love and having those be a consistent part of your regular routine. Because I'm sure we all know by now that fitness and exercise is crucial for overall health, but also for your cardiovascular health, right? Like that is something that is always talked about, how good it is for your heart, okay? So if you find yourself like, ooh, I'm not really good with the exercise piece, try something that you enjoy doing and do it regularly and often. So that way you can make sure to integrate this piece to the health equation into your regular life. Okay. And yeah, a lot of y'all have dogs. So hopefully walking the dogs counts as your movement practice. I know that my dogs are very good accountability partners, and they will stare at me until I take them on a walk. So they're the best little buddy to bring for anything active or any active activity that I do. Some other tips for exercise. Again, we want to make it more fun. It doesn't have to be something that is boring. It doesn't necessarily even have to happen in the gym, right? But you can go out in nature. There's so many beautiful benefits of even just like going on a walk out in nature, going for a run. Just being out there can help with your stress, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then making it fun for yourself, right? Bringing the dog. Maybe once you start to develop this consistency and you're like, all right, I've got some confidence with this, you can go and try different classes within your area. Maybe you can call up one of your colleagues from this talk and say, hey, let's try this fitness class together, right? Make it fun for yourself. That is how you're able to establish that consistency. Oh my gosh, that is so funny, John. I have a group of designers diving into a box of donuts 20 feet away. Do they need to come into the talk? Because maybe they could. I love it. Okay, the next piece is we definitely want to dive into stress. So before I dive into this, are we good with the fitness component? I know I kind of brushed over it a little bit quickly, but hopefully y'all were able to get some good information with that. Are we feeling okay? Put yes in the chat if we are. And we're ready to move on. Cool. Fantastic. All right, so stress. Stress is important to pay attention to. All right, on a scale from 1 being you are out on a beach somewhere, you know, sipping Mai Tais, hanging out, compared to a 10 where you're on burnout level stress, where are you in terms of stress? If you feel comfortable, feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah. Okay, so we got some 10s in here. All right. Yeah. So there are definitely some higher numbers happening here, right? So we really want to pay attention to this. And where I always like to start is bringing awareness to where am I actually feeling the stress, right? Because sometimes we just are like, I'm stressed, but we can't quite pinpoint it. And we don't fully have this conscious awareness as to what is causing that feeling and that sensation. So this is my favorite thing to do. It's called a stress inventory. We're going to bring conscious awareness to that stress. I highly recommend doing this whenever you're feeling like at that 7, 8, up to that 10 zone, is taking this inventory. So what I'm going to have you do is take out a piece of paper and a pen, or you can do this on your computer. And I want you to just quickly, everything that comes to your mind as far as the things that are causing you a bit of stress, without judgment, putting it on that piece of paper or that document that you have open in your computer. Just anything that's popping up for you. I'll give you about 30-ish seconds to do that. Anything that's coming up. Again, you don't have to judge it, but it's just, it's just there. Maybe the puppy is causing you a little bit of stress, right? That could definitely do that. I think that was Robin who said that about their puppy. Maybe it's just a little bit of a stressful season for you. Yeah. Awesome. So feel free to finish up any of the last little things that you have on that list. But what I want you to now do is we're going to go through that list. And I want you to just look at it and star any of the things on that list that you could outsource, or you could push off until a little bit later, or ask for help with. just start it. You don't have to get into, okay, well, how am I going to outsource it? Who am I going to ask quite yet? But you can always come back to that after this talk because it's just so, so helpful. And know that asking for help is not a weakness. It's a sign of strength and a sign that you are strictly human. Okay, humans were meant to be in communities where we helped each other out. But right now we're so isolated that sometimes we feel like, ooh, I'm not allowed to ask for help, but you are. Please definitely ask for help if you need it. I want you to also go through this list and star anything that, if you could kind of look at it in maybe a different way, it wouldn't feel as stressful. Okay, so let me give you an example. So as far as what goes on biologically in the body when it comes to stress, there are these certain hormones that are released, right? You got your adrenaline, you got your cortisol, you got all these stress hormones pumping out, right? Now, an athlete who's about to go to big game is going to have the same reaction going on in their body as someone who's like an academic who's about to take a really big test that is, like the end all be all of their, final college career that is going to determine their next steps in life, right? One of these people, probably that academic, is going to interpret that stress as probably being a little bit more like, ooh, I'm nervous, or, oh, I'm feeling really anxious, or, oh, I'm really like, I'm stressed out about this, right? Whereas the athlete might be like, oh, I'm so excited, let's go, game day. It's going to feel, there's going to be a different interpretation of those hormones circulating through their body, right? So there may be something on your list where you can potentially just look at as, okay, this is, while yes, it's stressful, I'm kind of excited about what the result's going to be. See where I'm going with that? Maybe it could feel a little bit more exciting than stressful, okay? And another reason, or another thing that I want you to do is continuously come back to this stress inventory whenever you're feeling that way, like I mentioned before, because again, we can get so just, overwhelmed with it all, that if we actually kind of have it all in front of us, we can better decide what our next steps are in order to help with that clarity, right? When we were back in the caveman era in terms of human beings, our stress was typically something like, I don't know, a saber-toothed tiger coming after us, and we would run to safety, and then we would be able to rest and recover, right? But right now, we have all of these stressors that are constantly coming at us. And I like to think of them as little saber-toothed tigers, right? So all of those things on your list are little saber-toothed tigers that are just coming at you left and right. And we don't allow ourselves to have that rest and recovery to come back down to earth and to give your body the time that it needs, okay? So I want you to be really conscious of this so that way you can make sure to put some of those saber-toothed tigers away, lock them up, get some help with them, so that way your body can recover. And so that way you're not stuck in this chronic state of fight or flight or stress, okay? Some other tips for stress. Nature, I could truly talk about being out in nature all of the time because there's just so many beautiful benefits. And I love that there's actual scientific studies to back it up too, about the benefits of being out in nature and what it can do for your brain health and your nervous system health. So even just going outside for about 20 minutes a day has shown that it can decrease your heart rate, your blood pressure. It can help you with your productivity because you're going to feel a little bit more creative. It just all around relaxes your body a little bit more and your brain. So for those of you who do like to go on a walk, who do like to go walk your dogs, that's fantastic. I love that you do that. Make sure you're, getting that good quality outdoor time. You might be thinking, well, I live in a city and I don't really have access to something like, this beautiful picture on this slide here, right? Know that even just sitting underneath a tree, like at a park or, one on the sidewalk, just being around nature like that can be really beneficial as well, Okay, so you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just being outside, soaking up the sun can be so tremendously helpful for decreasing your overall stress. And like this slide says here, a little bonus is if you go out without any distractions, without those notifications buzzing at you left and right. So that way you can just give your brain a little bit of time to process the stuff that's going on in life, to think creatively, and to just relax. All right. The next step is to make sure you're getting adequate sleep and you're breathing. So how many of you would say that you get some pretty good consistent sleep? Put yes in the chat if you're pretty good with getting that consistent sleep. Yay, even with the puppy, good for you. Yeah, okay, yeah, so sometimes, right, maybe not, yeah. So the sleep component is so crucial because those individuals who get 6 or less hours of sleep on a regular basis have an increased risk of developing some sort of chronic illness down the line, okay? Again, amazing science about the benefits of sleep. I know I said that if you get one thing out of this talk, it's that I hope that you become a little bit more curious and connected with your body. I also hope that it is to make sure that you are creating a good and consistent regular nighttime routine, so that way you can get adequate sleep, right? So winding down, having that little process for yourself, going to bed at a consistent hour, making sure that you just are trying your hardest to support yourself with your regular sleep is going to be so important for warding off chronic illness and to just better help your body, okay? Breathing. So this stuff sounds so simple, right? But there are so many tremendous benefits to it. So breathing. This can also help just allow your body to relax a bit, okay? So we're gonna do a breathing exercise together, and I'm gonna ask you how you feel afterwards from this breathing exercise, okay? So here's what you're gonna do. Just take a deep inhale through your nose, hold it, and exhale through your mouth. Nice long exhale. Inhale through your nose, hold it, and exhale. 3 more like that. Deep inhale, hold it, and exhale. You can even get your arms in it. Deep inhale, hold it, big stretch, and exhale. 1 more, really big one. How do you feel? If you did that exercise, how do you feel? Put it in the chat. How are you feeling? Better. Good. Amazing. Love it. Yes. Woo! That only took about 30 seconds. Right? So when you're feeling that stress, when you're feeling disconnected from your body, when you're feeling a little, flustered, this is a really easy, gentle practice that you can utilize throughout the day in order to help calm that nervous system a little bit more and to get you a little bit more connected into your body. Okay, I love doing this in between client calls. I love doing this, just whenever I'm feeling a little like, overwhelmed, just breathe, right? Just breathe. The next piece is fulfillment. This is one requirement that I have for every single one of my clients, is to make sure that they are feeling fulfilled and doing the things that they love to do. How many of you all have a hobby that you love? And if you would like to share it, I would love to see it in the chat. Something that you love to do that makes you just feel like totally in that flow state where time just slips away and you're just having fun. You're just enjoying it. Cooking, plants, gardening. Yes. Amazing. Yeah. These things don't have to be anything huge, right? It doesn't have to be any big monumental thing, but it's just something that you're incorporating into your life to help bring this happiness into the equation. Because this little moment of happiness when you are, making cards or volunteering or gardening, that is a contagious, beautiful energy that is so supportive for living a healthier life. Okay, so definitely going and getting that on a consistent basis. Again, it doesn't have to be big, it can be something simple. It's going to be so, so helpful for your overall health. So I hope you do more of it. Okay. And by the way, that's my favorite question to ask people when I meet anyone new, and feel free to do this. Instead of necessarily asking like, hey, what do you do for a living, which you certainly can ask, you can ask them, what are your hobbies? What do you do for fun? And it's great to ask that question, because when they talk about it, people immediately just start to like have this certain essence about them come out, and it's really fun to witness. Okay, I'm going to be wrapping this thing up in a bit here. So let's talk about how to tie this all together into some long-term results. So if you have that piece of paper and that pen, I want you to just write out some things that stuck out to you in this talk. And you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of this from this talk. I don't expect you to do everything all right at one time, right? We want to start with the things that really stuck out to us, because chances are that's the thing that really, we feel connected with. So writing out any of those things, feel free to share them in the chat if there's anything that you're walking away from this with. But in order to maintain this consistency, in order to get these long-term results, we want to be sure that we're designing our goals specific for ourselves. Often we get wrapped up in the shoulds, or, I should do this, I should do that. Instagram's telling me I should do this. Okay, we really want to focus and connect with, what do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? And always come back to that. The next piece would be to focus on your strengths in order to help build that consistency. So for example, I am a really big scheduler. Like, I live by my Google Calendar. It is color coordinated. I love it. Okay. So what I like to do to make sure that when things maybe get a little bit busier and my time is a little bit more condensed, I want to be sure that I'm carving out these moments and these pockets in the day to take care of myself, right? So I'm going to put in my little Google Calendar in a color-coded little box, take a lunch break, right? Something so simple that often goes to the wayside whenever stress happens, or go to the gym or anything like that, right? So focusing on these strengths. Maybe you like to try new things, and that's a strength of yours. You have confidence in that. Fantastic. Maybe if you want to get more exercise, you can start to try these different places around town to get a good exercise routine going.